What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another one of our game recaps. Today, we are going to be looking over the games from August 18th, and we're going to be doing one of these every single day that there are games during the preseason and the regular season. So please like and subscribe if you would like to see more of these game recaps. The first one we're going to look at is the Giants and the Panthers. It was 21-19 Giants. For the Panthers, Matt Corral led the way for the passers. He was 9 of 13 for 71 yards. Jake Luton was behind him, 2 of 7 for 41 yards, and he had the touchdown. Bryce Young chipped in 3 of 6 for 35. So we already know that this is going to be the Bryce Young show, and Andy Dalton is behind him. The battle is going to be between Corral and Luton. My guess would be that Corral has the lead because they just spent a pretty decent pick on him, so he's probably going to get that job, but again, it's only going to be the third quarterback job here. For the rushers, Raheem Blackshear and Chuba Hubbard led the way. Miles Sanders, it sounds like he's going to be out the whole preseason with that groin injury. That's not official yet, but that seems to be the trend there. Blackshear had 31 yards on 8 carries, and he had the touchdown. Chuba Hubbard had pretty much an identical stat line, 8 carries, 30 yards. It sounds like Blackshear is going to be the third down back between these two, and Chuba Hubbard is more of the traditional running back. So, but I still expect Miles Sanders to lead the way. He's a really good running back. Like, you should go look at his averages while he was running with Philadelphia. And yes, they have a great offensive line, and he was bogged down by injuries during that time as well. But when he's on the field, he's a great running back, and he got paid like that this offseason. And I think Carolina's going to use him like that. He's going to be the feature back here, and I think he's going to be a really good option in fantasy too. Spencer Brown was after the top two. He had 10 carries for 26 yards, led the way in carries there. Only a 2.6 yard average. Corral chipped in 13 on the ground, and Bryce Young had 1 yard. He's not a runner. He's not really going to do any serious rushing production there. Corral had 13 though, so that is notable as far as his stat line. Shi Smith led the way in a big way. For the receivers, he had 4 catches for 59 yards on 5 targets. He had a role last year. He's probably going to make this team. Gary Jennings had 20. Jonathan Mingo, that's a really important name to keep in mind. He started this game. After he caught this ball, he had a really good play after the catch too. So I think his role is just going to progress as the year goes on. And DJ Chark's probably going to start with him. He had 13 yards through the air. Adam Thielen's probably going to be that slot guy, 7 yards there. But Mingo is really the name that we want to keep an eye out for here. Javon Wims had 8. Laviska Shenault had 2 targets, but he didn't haul any of those in. Tight ends didn't really do a whole lot. Ian Thomas, that's a stat line you don't really see every day. 2 catches for negative 3 yards. But again, the big name that you want to keep in mind here is Jonathan Mingo. For the Giants, their passers had a really good day today. 9 of 13 for Tyrod Taylor. He had 90 yards and a touchdown. Tommy DeVito was 9 for 11 with 88 yards. And Daniel Jones, 8 of 9, 69 yards and a touchdown. Really solid day for everybody here. Tyrod Taylor led the way for the rushers as well. He had 21 yards on the ground. Eric Gray, the former Sooner, he had 16 yards and a touchdown. James Robinson, it still blows my mind how far he fell off because you don't really see that arc of like being amazing as an undrafted free agent and then like he's just kind of bouncing around right now. He had 10 yards on the ground. Daniel Jones only had 6 on the ground. So I think Eric Gray, like this whole situation here is going to be interesting to see how touches are divided behind Saquon Barkley and if anybody really besides Saquon Barkley is going to have any sort of role there for the Giants. And for the receivers, this is where it gets really interesting. So Isaiah Hodgins led the way. He had 45 yards on 2 catches, but Jalen Hyatt, he had the drop, but he looks really good to me. He's a name that you definitely want to keep in mind. He was a top 5 receiver for me coming out of the draft. He had 4 catches for 35 yards and a touchdown. Really good day for him. And Darren Waller, this is an example of why I've had him at tight end too. 3 catches for 30 yards on 4 targets. He was really good. He might be the number 1 receiver for them. And to me, like Hawkinson has a really high floor because he's going to get a lot of targets. And Mark Andrews, he's never really had this much competition for targets. So to me, it's not 100% that he's going to be the number 1 receiver for the Ravens either. Zay Flowers is really good. I think his role is just going to progress throughout the season also. And Darren Waller, he has a legit shot at Like, Travis Kelce is the number one receiver for the Chiefs, but there's not really another tight end besides Waller who has a serious chance at being the number one receiver for their team. So definitely draft Darren Waller. He's a tremendous value right now too, so get him whenever possible. Paris Campbell is looking pretty sweet in that number 0. 3 catches for 23 yards. He got a decent-sized contract in the offseason too, so that's going to be a name that we want to keep in mind going forward. Not too much other than that. Sterling Shepard, I've heard that he's on the roster bubble. Like, when he plays, he might be the best receiver they have, honestly, when he plays, but they have been kind of dealing with the same injury issues with him for a while now, so maybe he is on the roster bubble. We'll see, but I think he has a spot on this team. Daniel Bellinger had 4 yards and a touchdown. It's pretty sweet to see him in that dark visor too after that eye injury. It's cool to see the dark visor coming back. David Sills didn't haul in his target. So yeah, what we really want to keep in mind here is Jalen Hyatt looks really good moving forward. He talked about winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year. That's probably too far, but he looks really good. 4 catches, again, the touchdown. Great stuff from him. Darren Waller, like I said earlier, might be the number one receiver here. And this game didn't do anything to change my mind. I'm still going to keep him at tight end too. Next game is the Bengals and the Falcons, and we had another preseason tie, 13-13 for the Bengals. The passers, no Joe Burrow in this game, no Joe Mixon. No starters on offense for the Bengals, so Jake Browning led the way. He was 16-22 for 140 yards and a pick. Trevor Siemian, who feels like he's been on every team, that'd be a good Pro Football Reference page to go look at. So I just looked it up. This is his 5th team, so that's actually a little lower than I thought it would be. He was 17-14 for 62 yards. It seems like, Trevor Siemian has been there and done that, so he's probably going to have that primary backup job locked down. Jake Browning also chipped in 50 yards on the ground. Really interesting day for him rushing. You don't really see that often from Jake Browning. Chase Brown had the touchdown at the goal line. He got stopped a few times, so this average is kind of swayed by that, but he had 9 carries for 18 yards. Chris Evans looked really good in the last preseason game. He had 7 carries for 15 yards here, not a whole lot. He also had 2 catches for 20 yards. Andre Iosivas led the way for receivers. He's getting a lot of buzz out of Bengals camp. 5 catches for 44 yards on 10 targets. Cedric Jackson had 42 with 4 catches. Charlie Jones, the former Boilermaker, had 36 through the air on 4 catches. Trent Irwin, the former highly rated recruit, had 14. Drew Sample chipped in 13. Devin Asiasi had 2. Not much to learn from here other than Andre Iosivas is probably the most buzzworthy name coming out of Bengals camp right now. So we should probably keep an eye on him moving forward, but I don't think his role is going to progress past that 4th receiver this year because Tyler Boyd is pretty entrenched. And, of course, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase aren't going anywhere. For the Falcons, they actually played their starters. So we got to see Desmond Ridder. He was 7-9 for 80 yards. He had a really good drive up until the last second when he threw the pick. That was bad. But he did look good up to that point for what it's worth. Taylor Heineke came in 13-21. He led the way for all passers, 162 yards through the air. As solid of a backup as there is in the league, for sure. That's why I keep thinking Taylor Heineke might take this job at some point. But for now, he's one of the best backups in the league. So that's a name to keep in mind. Godwin Igwebuike had 14 carries for 61 yards. He led the way for all rushers by a healthy margin. Bijan Robinson looked good. He had 4 carries for 20 yards. Go watch his first carry. It's like he's going to get used. There's no doubt about it. He led the way in snap count for all backs when all the starters were out there too by a good margin. That could be because he's a rookie and they want to see more of him, but he did look really good when he was out there, so that's definitely something to watch out for. It'll be interesting to see if he gets any more run during the preseason too. But he is a rookie, so we got to keep that in mind. But at the same time, they picked him number 8, so it's going to be interesting to see if they keep him in here. Tyler Algier only had the 1 carry for -1 yard. Interesting stuff there that he didn't get more play. Taylor Heineke had 14 on the ground. Desmond Ridder had 7. But the main takeaway here is Bijan Robinson confirmed good at football. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, one of my scouting misses. I thought he was going to be nice, but he led the way for receivers here with Josh Ali. 39 yards for both of them. Arcega-Whiteside had 2 catches. Ali had 3. Drake London looked really good out there. Had 33 yards to the air on 2 catches. Xavier Malone matched that exactly. 2 catches for 33 yards. Matt Collins had 2 catches for 20 yards. He looked good out there too. Kyle Pitts looks awesome. It's such a shame that they don't use him more because he is so good. 1 catch for 9 yards. He just looks different athletically than any other tight end. He is so good. I'll be really excited if they start to use him more this year, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case until they get a new coach. So we'll see about that. Bijan Robinson had 1 catch for 6 yards. Scotty Miller had 5. Not too much to take away from here, to be honest with you. Just that Bijan Robinson was out there, and he looked good. And Desmond Ridder had a nice drive out there, but he did kind of blow it with the pick. And that's going to do it for me, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.